right, today we're going to be breaking down my 5 steps of the evolution of you as a closer. Now, I'm going to be giving you some homework on today's video. What I want you to do is at the end of this video, comment below on what step you think you currently are as a closer and what you're going to be working on moving forward so you can move to the next step. Now, obviously, if this is evolution, if you're step 1, that means you're at the beginning. If you're at step 5, that means you have mastered closing. All right, so step number 1, the evolution of a closer, is the script reader. Okay, this is someone who has a script and they do not break outside the script. They don't know what to say. This is normally when you're brand new and you're nervous, right? You're just starting to get reps in. And so the conversations sound like this if you're following the King Closers formula. Hey, this is RJ Bates calling about 123 Main Street. Looked like you filled out a form on my website saying that you were interested in selling that property. Is that correct? Awesome. How much are you looking to get for it? Well, tell me a little bit about what you got going on. If I were to cover all of the closing costs and there's no realtor commissions, what's the best price you could do for me? Well, I don't think that price is going to work out for me. So I guess I'll just move you to dead and I'll call the next seller. Now, by all definitions, you checked off all the boxes on the formula, but that's not really what we want those conversations to sound like, right? These are the generic questions that you should be asking, but you're not breaking outside of the script or the formula. Now, there's many scripts out there, and you might be using a different one. Probably something along the lines of tell me a little bit about the condition, what's your timeline, what's the occupancy of the property. But the reality of it is you're not listening and reacting inside the conversation. You're literally just reading the script that's in front of you. And because of that, you really struggle identifying the seller's true motivation, getting the price as discounted as you need it. And you're really probably struggling to close deals. Everybody, including myself, starts at this level. There's no fault of your own. It just takes experience to learn how to move past this stage of the evolution of a closer. Step 2 is the confidence faker. Okay. This is someone that now does the majority of the talking during the conversation with the seller. This is someone that now starts to understand the process, and they're almost, because they've obtained knowledge, they want to kind of flex that during the seller conversation. So they really run over the seller, and the conversation is not about the seller. It's about all of this newfound knowledge that you have as a closer. And so they're really faking this level of confidence, trying to convince the seller that they are the solution, why they should want to sign a contract with them, really expressing all of the benefits of signing a contract with them instead of the competition. So the conversations, they still include the script, but instead of asking open-ended questions, what they're doing is they're responding with statements, right? It's not question-oriented. It's not coming from an inquisitive mind. It's coming from a fake confidence that you have that you're already making assumptions that you know what the seller needs and you're going to solve their problem. For example, I can close in 7 days. I can close in 14 days, Mr. Seller. That's one of the reasons why you should sign a contract with me. Instead of asking what's the seller's needs in regards to timeline, you're flexing. You're showing what you can do. And this leads to sellers not being heard. They don't feel like their needs are being put to the forefront. It's just a bunch of unfound confidence by the closer. This is one of the steps that can take a newer closer a long time to kind of graduate from, because you can find success at this level. What happens here is sometimes you'll start conversating, you'll start expressing this confidence that you have, and explaining to the seller why you could be their solution. And sometimes you might be right. Whatever you start explaining how your process works might be what the seller needs, and you just got to stumble upon getting a signed contract. However, what I will say is the most common type of seller, the person that's going to give you an incorrect price, maybe has different levels of motivation. You're not going to identify that. And so you are going to be missing out on quite a few signed contracts if you stay at level 2, the confidence faker. Level 3 is a pretty large step forward. And this is where I feel like people really start becoming a closer, and that is with the pattern breaker. What I mean by the pattern breaker is if you're following a script, there's kind of a pattern in which all of the conversations go. The pattern breaker starts listening better, starts asking better open-ended questions, and because of that, they can break the pattern in most conversations and sometimes not even talk about things that can be irrelevant, like timeline or finances or the occupancy, because they're going to receive that by the questions that they're asking. And so inside the conversations, they don't have to hit that bullet point checklist. This is where really good closers kind of live for a while because they're feeling like, hey, this is where I'm really starting to see success. The pattern breaker is someone that does a lot more listening. The conversation is more like 80% seller, 20% closer. They're really understanding the seller's needs. And so when you listen to the conversations, maybe the introduction, the beginning will sound the same, but the end, the middle portion of this conversation will sound different. They're really going to be contingent upon how the seller is responding to you, what the seller is saying. Maybe there's a little bit of pushback with an aggressive seller from the closer. Maybe there will be a layer of empathy that is, given by the closer when there's an emotional motivation. It's really just dependent upon the seller and they're reacting to that based off of the questions that are asked and the responses given from the seller. Now you're going to the next level and you're going to have a new wave of contracts that you wouldn't have had if you were just a script reader or a confidence faker. The pattern breaker is where most people are if you've been in this business consistently for several months. Now you're starting to understand the reps are starting to really pay off, and you're learning the more that you can listen and the more that you can ask questions instead of statements, the further along these conversations will go. Now, step number 4, I think, is where people take a whole new step as a closer. This is where I would actually say I probably was in the 2023 50-50-50. Now, Jairo Rodriguez likes to say that was the prime of my career. Well, I'm here to beg to differ. I was still learning a lot, and I think I have drastically improved since 2023. But step number 4 is the one-line assassin. This is someone that if you say, the seller gives me this objection, they already have that one-liner on how to obliterate that objection. They know when the seller says this, here's my one-liner. And it's great. Now, the person that comes to mind when I think of a one-line assassin is Cesar Lacosta. Now, I love Cesar. I think Cesar is an excellent closer. And Cesar's goal moving forward for the next year is to get to the level where he can compete with me in a closing competition, which I love that goal. However, I have felt for a while now that Cesar has been a one-line assassin. Part of the reason why is because he does have really good one-liners, and they do work. And he knows if the seller says this, I rebuttal with this one line. And they do work and they're successful. However, there's a problem with the one-line assassin. It's still about you. It's not about the seller. It's still not getting the seller to say something in response and you knowing if I could get the seller to say this, now I'm going to be able to close. It's, I know when a seller gives me this objection, I've got this one-liner, how to overcome it, and then I'll react and respond. Now, the final layer, and the person that I think is the ultimate master closer, in which I've seen very few at this level, is step number 5, the deal whisper. And the reason why I'm calling it that is because this is where I'm really pushing Caesar to get to, where it's not so much about seller says this, and here's my one line. It's about if I can get the seller to say this, now I know the deal is going to close. So the one line, they can get you to get the seller to say a certain thing, and that can lead to getting close. But I want to see Caesar's thought process to change, where he's more thinking about what the seller is saying and getting them to say certain things. Some people refer to it as a soft early verbal close, right? Are you still looking to sell this property? Are you in a position to sign that contract today if we can come to an agreement, right? Getting them to start saying certain things. However, I'm not big on that. I'm big on getting them to really express what their needs are. And I don't want to ask so directly. I want them to come out and say, if I could just get this, then I would be prepared to sign my contract. This is a whole nother layer of asking questions and getting responses from sellers that then lead to closes. The deal whisperer is someone that can literally look at a seller's motivation, look at the condition of the property, the information that we receive from an inbound PPL lead, start asking questions, and then can literally say, I'm about to close this deal or I'm not. This is the reason why I'm going to close this deal. That is an intuition that is second to none, that comes from experience. It comes from the reps of being on the phone. So no matter what level you are, all of this comes with time, comes with the opportunities that we have nowadays to talk to sellers that have already raised their hand and said, I have a property I want to sell. So no matter if you're a script reader, the confidence faker, the pattern breaker, the one-line assassin, or the deal whisperer, you still always have room to grow. Now, I personally think I've gotten to the point where I'm a deal whisperer. The reason why is because I've proven that time and time again, where I've said, I'm about to close this deal. I understand based off the seller's responses, I can close this. Now, what I want to know in the comments is, where are you and what are you going to do? What is the training and the work that you are going to put in to move up to the next level? And how will you know that you've made it to that next level as a closer? So, to my good friends Hyro and Caesar, thank you for always pushing me. Hyro, I saw your comment. I didn't respond to it in the TU group, but I saw it. And Caesar, I challenged you with this a couple of months ago during our one-on-one. I hope you watch this video today, and I can't wait to see you become a deal whisperer in 2026. All right, guys, that's our episode. Show me some love. Like today's video. We'll see you guys tomorrow.